Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacey, and you're joining us for our Leaders and Legends segment. Our guest today is Autumn McIntyre, a 15-year-old author of The Element Keeper. Welcome to the show, Autumn.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So we've had, I don't even know how many guests. I'm pretty sure Autumn is our youngest.
Yes.
But when you hear about her, you wouldn't expect that she's 15 years old. As you mentioned, Autumn is the author of a fantasy fiction book called The Element Keepers, Triskele. The Element Keepers follows the journey of a 14-year-old girl, Feyre Kingsley, as she is thrown into a world filled with fairies, element keepers, and mythological creatures. As time progresses, Feyre and her friends must stop the evil arising that will put her and her world into peril. Join Feyre on the first part of a 4-year journey as she discovers herself, her past, and her future in the first book of 4, The Element Keepers, Triskele. So, Autumn, first of all, tell us, how long did it take you to write your first book, and how long is it? How big is the book?
This book, I've been working on it for about a year now, since about mid to late January, and this book is about 380 pages.
That's amazing. So you're 15 years old, so you have like a schedule of most kids that you have your regular schoolwork, going to school, you're in clubs, etc. How do you find the time to write a book?
Well, it can be very hard at times because my school does like to assign a lot of homework, but I just need to find out time to carve it because I really love writing. So I find as much time as I can. Like before the bell rings for first period, we have a 20-minute time period, and I go there into the library and I write. Or there's the 5 minutes before each class starts, and I just write. I just try to spend as much of my free time as I can writing.
Do you write every day?
I try to, yes.
And before I ask more questions about the process, tell us a little more. I read a little intro about the book, but tell us in your words what the book is all about.
Well, it's about a 14-year-old girl. She lives a very ordinary and bland life in a very small town, and then one day she's just kind of thrown into this world that's hidden inside her own that she really has no clue about, and it's a very mythological, like really cool world, and she attends a school there called Northborough Academy, where she goes with all the other element keepers to help master her own powers. And just along the way, a lot of weird stuff starts happening. We meet a controlling government. There's a lot of random attacks and intruders, so Feyre and her friends decide, because no one else is really doing anything about it, that they'll be the ones to try and save the school and stop everything bad from happening.
So interestingly, I know from having spoken to you the other day that nobody in your family even knew that you were writing a book. Basically, you came into the kitchen one day and say, "Hey, look what I did. I finished my first book." Why did you
Yeah.
Why did you choose not to let others know that, or your family know, that you were writing a book?
Well, I didn't let a lot of people know. I'm not very vocal about my writing process because, first off, I never want to seem like I'm trying to brag or rub something in someone's face just because I'm doing something. And also, it's just I would get a whole bunch of questions, and when I'm writing, I kind of just like to be left by myself in that process.
So, are you a regular kid that you do stuff do you go to the mall or go to the movies?
Yeah.
I don't even know what kids do now.
I don't know what kids do. Do they still have movies?
Yeah. Do you do that stuff? Because you don't sound like an average kid.
I mean, I do go to the mall. I hang out with my friends quite often. I do live a very normal, expected life of a teenager, just that I happen to write too.
That's awesome. So going after this dream, while you're going to school, writing a book, being with friends, like there has to be something that gets sacrificed because you committed so much to writing this book. Anything off the top of your head that you think you had to sacrifice in order to get this done?
Well, I mean, I spent a lot of my summer vacation writing, so I don't think that I saw my friends as much as I usually do because I was working really hard to finish up all the edits and with writing. And there has been times where sometimes I have put my writing before my schoolwork, but I try not to do that too much. So there are a few things that I have had to sacrifice a bit.
There must be times when you're totally in the zone and you just, it just feels like it's just coming to you. You just keep writing, and the last thing you want to do is stop to either go to school or do schoolwork or whatever else. It's got to be tough.
Yes, it is, especially because there's that 20-minute time period before class starts and I'm just writing, and then I hear the bell ring, and I'm like, no, I don't want to go to class.
Wow, that's amazing. So do you ever get writer's block, and if so, how do you get past it?
Oh, yeah. I get writer's block mainly during the plotting process when I'm trying to figure everything out and make sure that enough action happens. But the way that I get through that is really just I let myself take a break maybe for a day or two, and then I kind of just go out, and then when I come back, I feel kind of refreshed in a way, and my mind is ready to start with the process again.
Do the characters, spending that amount of time working on these characters, they're part of your life just like a regular human being is. Do you ever find yourself, even after the book is done, being in a life situation and then saying to yourself, I wonder what Pharaoh would do in this situation?
I mean, yeah, that does happen to me a lot. I always get ideas for everything that I experience. There are some, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. It's a lot of things that happen to me in my life kind of draws inspiration for it'd be really cool if I did that with this part, or just a lot of things kind of inspire me to kind of build on the story and the plot with all my characters.
Wow, that's amazing. So now that the book is done, I know as of this moment it's on Kindle, and any day now it's also going to be out in paperback for people to order as well. So now, first of all, you've already started writing your next book, is that correct?
Yes, I finished the first draft of it.
Okay, so, and that's going to be the second part of a 4-part series taken from this book. Okay.
You already finished writing your second book? Are you kidding?
Yes,
Stacey's been trying to get me to write a book for 4 years. I've gotten a half a page done.
How you feel now, Bob?
I feel really I felt bad when you finished a whole book.
Yeah.
Now I find out you're 2 books ahead of me. I got to get on this.
And she's busy all day.
Yeah, and you got to go to school too.
Yeah.
I have no excuses.
So, but now, in addition to still writing, it seems like you also have to put on your marketing hat as well, because you're now out marketing and doing press for your book. What is that like?
Yeah. Marketing does take a lot of my time, but what I do is that when I have an Instagram account for all that, and I make sure to post at least 2 times a day, and sometimes I'll go on Twitter, and I also have been very lucky because before I wrote this first serious book, I was on Wattpad, and I built kind of a little reader base there, which is really helpful. But the marketing does take up a lot of time, especially trying to find new and cool ways that I can market.
Wow, that's awesome. So you're basically reinventing yourself. I mean, when you write a book, I think not only do you have to be a great writer, a visionary, and in addition to that, you have to be a business person. You're learning business skills on how to market and sell a book as well. Talk about, I know that part of your process for writing is that you actually hand write your book. Talk about that, why you do it, and what your entire process is.
So I handwrite I handwrite basically everything first, and I'm not sure why I've always had to handwrite, but when I do the first draft and when I'm plotting, I always use a pen and a paper. I just find that it works better for my mind, because if I try to just type on the computer, the quality of my work won't be as good as it could be.
Mm-hmm.
So the handwriting does take a lot of time, but I actually really enjoy handwriting, and it makes the revision a lot easier too, because then I'll just transfer. Because I retype the whole book, because I take it from the notebook onto my laptop.
Mm-hmm. Wow, so it forces you to read it and edit it as well as you're going along.
To at least use voice to text, so you
Yeah.
don't have to type the whole thing out?
What?
Do you type the whole thing out, or do you use voice to text?
I type the whole thing out.
See, that's another thing I've been trying to shortcut.
Yeah, you're sounding really lazy right
Probably
now.
why I'm
Bob.
only a half a page into my first book.
She sounds really motivated, but you sound really lazy right now.
Yeah, I feel really lazy right now. I will say, when you just said writing it out, it really helps you. I really think that's what I need to do. Like, most of the stuff when I write,
Yeah.
even short articles, I find handwriting, it's a lot easier than typing
Yeah.
it or even dictating it. I find dictating very hard to do.
Yeah. No, I don't know why, but handwriting has just always been easier for me. I'm more creative in a way when I handwrite.
That makes sense.
So
I get
maybe
that.
that'll be.
Yeah.
Do you have any other advice for people listening? Because there's going to be literally thousands of people listening on the radio or through the podcast that we send out, and they're like, wow, it might be writing a book, but it really could be any dream. Like, you've accomplished a massive dream at 15 years old already. What advice do you have for others that have a huge goal that they want to go after?
Well, I mean, I really believe in hard work pays off, because if you really want to achieve and chase something, then you need to put in the time and the effort, because it's not going to happen so fast. And even if it takes a long time, progress is still progress, and it's better than getting nothing done at all. So I just feel like if you work hard and if you try to spend as much time as you can trying to chase your dream and make it happen, then it will happen.
Did you find it was easier to write the second book than the first?
The second book was a bit harder to write, just because the second book is more of there's a lot of things going on in that book. It's a really messy book with all the characters' lives, so it did take a kind of longer to write than the first book did.
So how long did it take you to write it, the first draft?
The second book?
Yeah.
I started it in July, and I finished it last month. So I think maybe 5 months.
Well, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Considering all the other stuff you have going on, that's not too bad at all.
Yeah, I wanted to start it on summer vacation so that I could have a lot of time for it before I went back to school.
Wow. Are you the next JK Rowling? Is it possible?
I don't know. I mean, I want to be the first Autumn McIntyre. That'd be
That's awesome.
Nice.
But I do look up to JK Rowling a lot, so.
That's awesome. So 10 years from now, when we have you on the show for the 100th time and we don't make you drive out like other guests that we talk about, what are you going to be known for?
I mean, because one of the reasons I started writing is because I've read books from so many amazing authors, and reading those books have led me in such an amazing journey, and I've found and I've discovered a lot about myself, and I felt so many emotions, and I wanted to write books as fantastic as the ones that I have read, and I wanted to be able to provide people with such an amazing and cool story. So I just hope that I'm able to positively impact people's lives one day with my writing.
I asked her this the other day, but I'm going to ask it again just for the listeners. Especially being a young person, I was wondering if it's hard to keep friendships. Like, to be friends with Autumn McIntyre. Like, can you imagine the parents of her friends are like, well, Autumn wrote a book last summer, and you can't even clean your room.
Yeah. 2 books.
No, I have had many. I have heard many stories from my friends saying, like, my parents expect me to do a lot now because you wrote a book. But that is pretty funny. But I am also very, very lucky because I have a really close group of friends who have just been so incredibly supportive, and I've made sure to surround myself with positive people. So they've all just been so wonderful throughout this whole process. So I'm really lucky.
That's amazing. So tell us all the different Instagram, Twitter, websites. Where can people find you and buy your book?
Okay, so my Instagram is Autumn Enjoys Writing. My Twitter, I think it's _Autumn McIntyre. I have a WordPress too. That's autumnenjoyswriting.wordpress.com. And then you can buy my books through my website, which is autumnmcintyre.com.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's awesome. autumnmcintyre.com, The Element Keepers. Thank you so much for joining us on our program. You're amazing. We'll have you back once your second book is published. We'll have you back and have you talking about that as well.
Thanks, Autumn.
Thank you so much.
That's all for this edition of Get Real. Join us again next weekend for more.